Hey guys, my name is Sarah. I just spent a month and a half slowly traveling in my Airstream from California to Washington State. I stayed with 3 Harvest Hosts and 2 Boondockers Welcome Hosts, and here's how it went. I just spent the last year in California as a travel radiology tech, and I was super sad to go, but very excited about this new contract that I landed in Washington State, because I've heard the Pacific Northwest is amazing in the summertime, which is absolutely true, and I'm sure I will make plenty of videos about that. The first stop on my journey out of California was at Yosemite National Park. I was extremely lucky to get a reservation in North Pines Campground. I have a friend who works in the park that happened to come across a post that said a bunch of campsites would be opening up on a certain date at a certain time. So of course I sat in front of my laptop at this time, refreshed. I would find an opening, put it in my cart, and then it would say, sorry, this site has already been reserved. So I did that a few times until I found a stretch of like 3 nights in a row. After I landed my reservation at Yosemite, I created a loose plan of all of the places that I wanted to hit along the way up to Washington. Then I found that all of the campsites in these areas were totally booked out because a lot of people make their reservations way in advance, but if you're anything like me, you are not that much of a planner. I had heard about Harvest Hosts a few times and someone had recommended it to me. So I finally bit the bullet and I signed up for a membership to see what it had to offer. When I looked on the map and I saw all of the places that I could stay, I was blown away. Even though I was having a hard time finding campsite reservations, I was able to jump on the Harvest Hosts website and make so many reservations that put me in all of the places that I wanted to be. And then I took it a step further and I signed up for the Boondockers Welcome membership, and that allows you to stay on people's personal properties for up to 5 days at a time. Every host is different, so make sure you check their profile first, but being able to stay for multiple nights at a time made my travel experience so much more enjoyable. Requesting a stay is super easy. I loved that I was able to do it last minute, and this being my first long journey in the Airstream, it was so comforting being able to stay on people's properties where I knew I was safe and someone was there for me if I needed anything. Every single host I had was absolutely amazing and accommodating and super friendly. This is also a great platform if you're traveling with a dog because I didn't come across a single place that wasn't dog friendly. Alright, so let's get into the journey. As mentioned, my first stop on my journey was at Yosemite National Park. The weather was beautiful, I got to take Rue on a bunch of dog-friendly trails, and I got to hang out with my friend that works there. After that, I headed up to Lake Tahoe to stay in a friend's driveway for a few days. All of the campsites there were completely booked out, so I was extremely thankful to have a friend there that I could park in his driveway. Rue and I got to check out a few places like Incline Village. There's a beautiful walking trail right along the water, and we also went to Hidden Beach. We also got to hike some trails there, including Echo Lake, which was absolutely gorgeous. I also got to visit some friends up in Reno. My friend's birthday was coincidentally that weekend, so we went out on the town, we had a great time, and it was so great getting to see them. After Lake Tahoe, I knew I wanted to go to Crater Lake, so I booked a Harvest Host that's about 30 minutes south of Crater Lake. But in order to get there, it was about a 6-hour drive, and the more I travel and tow my trailer, the more I'm learning that I don't really want to drive for more than 4 or 5 hours unless I have a good break in between. So I hopped on Harvest Hosts last minute to see if there was any stops in between, and I found a farm in Janesville, California that accommodated me on very short notice. It was right off the main road, so I didn't have to stray too far from my route. Their property was beautiful, peaceful, and private, and they offered an electric hookup. When you stay with the Harvest Hosts, you need to support their business in exchange for them letting you stay there. Typically, this means making a purchase of at least $20. You can either purchase their products or leave a donation. This Harvest Host in particular sold honey, so I could have bought some, but honestly, I have very minimal storage and I don't need a giant thing of honey, so I left a donation and a thank you card. After staying on the farm for the night, I headed up to my next Harvest Host. It was on a beautiful property right across the street from a giant lake with a beautiful mountain view, and it's only about 30 minutes south of Crater Lake National Park. Their property is about 2 acres and it has a walking/mountain biking trail on it, which is great if you have a dog and you need somewhere to walk them. This Harvest Host was a Hawaiian island massage studio, so of course I got a massage. But you could also purchase other products like soaps or, of course, leave a donation. The owner lived in Hawaii for many years, but she also lived in the same city in Florida as me. Small world, right? I think one of my favorite things about Harvest Hosts is all of the people that I got to meet along the way. After that, I boondocked for the very first time just north of Crater Lake. I did make a video on that, so I will link it above for you guys to check out if you haven't already. After Crater Lake, I went and stayed with my first Boondockers Welcome host in La Pine, Oregon. Their property is beautiful and extremely large. They can host 3 RVs at a time, which they actually did several nights that I was there, but it was still completely private and spaced out. They even have a fenced-in area for your dogs to run around. It was also a great opportunity for me to meet other RV'ers, and the hosts used to be full-timers themselves. My next reservation was at someone's property in Bend, Oregon, but I had a day gap that I had to fill, and I honestly didn't know where I was gonna stay, maybe at a rest stop for the night, but I hopped on Harvest Hosts website and I found an alpaca farm right down the road. They took same-day requests, so I called them up and they were extremely accommodating. I got to go sleep next to alpacas that evening. So cool. If you don't have dogs with you, they will open the gates and let the alpacas roam around your RV. If not, your dog might have a great time running along the fence with them. They do a tour every evening, so I got to learn all about alpacas and I got to feed them. It was such a fun and unexpected experience. Now I want to stay on all of the alpaca farms. At the end of the tour, you can visit their gift shop and make a purchase to support their business. I got myself a cute little headband, which will be great in the winter months, and it's a cute little memento of my stay at the alpaca farm. I will say it was a little hard to find a level spot on the property, but you do get a beautiful view. Kind of makes up for it. And alpacas. Like, come on.
Top of the morning to ya.
Then I got to go do some driveway camping in Bend, Oregon at another Boondockers Welcome host. The hosts were extremely friendly once again. They had a fenced backyard that they let Rue run around in, and it was only about 5 minutes from the downtown area of Bend. Rue and I went for a hike and got to see plenty of waterfalls. It was beautiful, but I will say it was very overcrowded, and honestly the whole city was. But it didn't help that I went on a weekend in the summertime, so maybe I'll give Bend another chance, but it was a little crowded for me. I did find someone to take me rock climbing at Smith Rock, and that was such a cool experience. It's only about 30 minutes north of Bend, and it's a great climbing spot. And if I ever pass through that area again, now I have a friend that will take me climbing with her. I also went to a Dirty Heads concert while I was in Bend, so I got to meet a bunch of people there. For anyone who says that this lifestyle is lonely, it certainly is not. Only if you let it. Sometimes you just have to step outside of your comfort zone and go do something alone, and you end up meeting so many people along the way. My last stop before I got to my new spot in Washington was in Cascade Locks, Oregon. It's right on the Columbia River Gorge, and it is breathtaking. I also made a video on this, so I will link that above as well. I did plan on staying with 2 more Harvest hosts, but unfortunately I had to cancel on them when they pushed my contract forward. But I was able to give them more than 24 hours notice. They were very understanding, and that's another thing that I love about this company is I didn't get charged anything for that. Overall, I had an amazing experience with Harvest Hosts and Boondockers Welcome. I was able to make so many last-minute reservations. Everyone was so friendly and accommodating, and I felt so safe at every location I stayed at. As a newer full-time traveler and a terrible planner, this company was a game changer for me. If you guys are interested in signing up for Harvest Hosts yourself, they are running 20% off of your membership through the end of this month. And if you don't make that deadline, you can still get 15% off. And I'll put all of the links and the codes in the description below. Also, if any of you want a specific link to any of the places that I stayed, please reach out to me directly by sending me an email and I will respond to you with the link for that specific host. I am now settled into Washington State for at least a couple months. I don't know where I'll be going after this, but if you guys have any recommendations of things for me to do or check out while I'm here, please drop a comment. I love your guys' recommendations. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.